Welcome again to the Iditarod Daily Show. We're live from Anchorage at the Lakefront Hotel. Today we have Sebastian Schnuelle. Did I say it right, Sebastian?
Yeah, very good.
I've only known this guy for 20 years. I just learned how to say his last name. Say it for us.
Sebastian Schnuelle.
Schnuelle. So now I've said it correctly. Sebastian, we know you as the guy that's going to give us all the information from a snow machine that you're going to be riding on the trail, but tell us in more detail what your game plan is this year.
This year I'm probably not going to stay much at the start. I'm going to leave right away to Jentner, Screntner, catch the teams on the trail because there's plenty of people doing something right here in town. And then hopefully I will be calling in from the trail with some information, do my usual, upload the pictures, write some funny stories with it, and try to stay ahead of the dog teams this time, especially through the burn, down the gorge. So that A, I'm not in the way for the trail, but for the mushers, and B, I get a pretty good idea of where some fun stuff might happen.
And we're going to have the opportunity to give you a telephone call from time to time.
Yes, I actually have two separate phones with me, so you should be able to catch me.
Okay, we discussed before the show. So what's the plan? You got a huge crowd at Willow. How are you going to get on the trail? How are you going to get situated?
Well, what I'm not going to do is actually wait for the first couple of mushers and try to go on the trail, because some overzealous trail guards in the past have gone as far as ripping my key out of the machine. And no snow machine can
They didn't know who you were.
No snow machine can be on this trail. Well, I even had my badge and everything, but they were like, we were instructed that no machine can be on this trail. So I think this time I'm waiting maybe till 1 o'clock or 1:30 and then get on the trail and get a few miles out and then wait for the team so it's a little more peace and quiet.
Pretty protective of that trail out there.
Yeah,
so.
which is probably a good thing.
Yeah,
in all honesty, it's a good thing. I didn't get too mad with the guy. I luckily had a second key and put it in and kept on going. Not expecting to need it for that.
Yeah.
So I think it's it's good that they're protective about it. But once the team's on the river, it's much easier to do stuff.
Yeah. So describe for the viewers what's going to happen in that first section on the river and
first section of the river. You usually on the trail you don't see that many teams, but on the first part, right after the start, 85 teams. There's a lot of passing, a lot of teams bunching up. So it's pretty interesting. You sometimes get shots with 4, 5, 6 teams in them. The river travel, especially this year, there's going to be trails all over the place. It's not going to be deep snow, so mushers are not confined to where they go. You might have 4 or 5 teams next to each other traveling down the Jentner or the Screntner River, so that usually makes for very interesting shots, and it's more social than for the rest of the trail once the teams have spread out. Big differences. The usual culprits like the mountain boozers probably end up doing 13 miles an hour, where other people ride very conservative, do 9 miles an hour. So you see number 42 and 64 all of a sudden within 1 hour next to each other. And that defines a lot for the rest of the race.
Okay, so you're getting ready for the trip. You've looked at the weather reports. What can you tell us about what you think is going to happen Sunday, Monday?
I don't think it will be anything like what we saw in 2014, where the weather really threw us some curveballs right between now and the race. It looks we are over the worst with the warm weather. When there's a thing we can discuss about the Craig Medred trail report, which talks about a little bit open water opening up, and I think it will be a fast trail, a very fast trail. There will be definitely some dirt and bare ground showing, but it's in the usual spots. A lot of work has been done. So I think for the majority of the people, this should be fine.
I think people underestimate what a dog team can run through as well. There's a lot of conditions that are very challenging on a snow machine that a dog team can do just as well, if not better.
Oh, for sure.
I've snow machined the trail and mushed on a team, and there's many times when you can barely keep ahead of a dog team on a snow machine. So dog teams are amazing at what they can travel through without getting stuck, whether it's ice and even like the glacier and that, or we call it the glacier going out of Rhone. It's amazing what a dog team can crawl, what it can go through. You have 64-wheel drive essentially. So
yeah, and they're used to going on dirt. I mean, basically all fall long, that's what everybody does. They run them on dirt, they run them on iffy trail conditions. The dogs don't know that there's or they do know that there's a sled behind, but for them, not much has changed.
They don't care if there's snow or not.
It's for dog team, I agree, much easier. In 2014, I had a hard time staying ahead of Martin Buser through the berm. Mike Williams had to help me upright my snow machine. That might say something about my snow machine riding skills too.
Maybe you should stick to dogs, huh?
Yeah, but that's exactly it. The dog teams, it's hard on the musher, but the dogs, the teams as such, do not have that much of a hard time.
Do you think there's a lot of anxiety among the mushers? And of course, the last year's Iditarod started in Fairbanks instead of Willow, so they didn't have to go through this scary part of the trail, the gorge and the burn. This is the first time we've been back there since 2014, and that was a pretty scary time for a lot of folks. 10 people ended up scratching, quitting the race at the bottom of the Dalzell Gorge. Do you think folks are still nervous about that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, listen to them talk.
Yeah.
I mean, they see how little snow there's here. They most of them have driven through Willow, which actually looks much better than I anticipated. Yeah. So it's definitely the talk, and probably rightfully so. I mean, going down Dalzell Gorge, even in a good year, gets your adrenaline up. So that's part of the reason why we do it.
Yeah. So Sebastian, frame it for people that aren't familiar with the trail. So the first day and a half, you're going to be going up the south part of the Alaska Range. So what do you think is going to happen there? Good trail, bad trail?
I think it's going to be a good trail. Yeah. The river is going to be fast. There might be some last-minute reroutes around open water, which every race has been dealing with this season. The Yukon Crest had to shorten on the way to Whitehorse because of open water. But there's a lot to work with. Once you leave Skrentner, even there, Craig talks about some trenches of water. They will freeze again. They will get icy again. But you can go many different places there. So I think that the teams will have a fairly good, if not much faster travel than they're used to.
So once you top Rainy Pass and you're going down the north side of the Alaska Range, that's where things are going to get difficult. And you referred to an article by Craig Medred, who's always controversial in his trail reports. We can talk about that. What's going to happen once you get on the north side?
Let's back up a little bit one more time. I think the first interesting spot is definitely going down the Happy River Steps. And, hard packed trail might mean that it's not being trenched out as much as it's usually in other deep snow races.
Why does it get trenched out?
Well, people step on the brake, and usually with both feet, not on a drag mat, like on their metal brake, try to slow the dogs down as much as they can. That scrapes the snow away, it sprays the snow up. So the trail gets half an inch deeper with every team going through till you're down to whatever there is at the bottom.
And after 85 teams, you just have this trench going down the trail, and it's.
So I have to add my own anecdote. I raced in 2008, and I was 60th going down that area you talked about, and it had trenched out to where it was over my head. It was absolutely terrifying. It's always good for the first 10 or 15 mushers. But once you get in the back of the pack, it's a carnival ride.
Yeah, well, when I raced, I made a point of trying to be one of the first 5 teams through there. No matter what I did to the rest of my racing schedule, or no matter what I had trained my team for, I said, I need to get that team through there because of the same experiences.
Just so the trail conditions are better when you get there.
Then I say, okay, if I overran them a little bit, then I need to deal with it resting after that. Yeah. But I want to get through there in one piece myself. Yeah. The only year I didn't do that was actually in 2011. And I crashed hard. I lost my team, I had 3 loose dogs, and I was like, why did I move away from something which had worked so well in the past? Yeah. So, there's a lot of anticipation of that sport alone. I mean, when you're leaving Finger Lake as a musher, or even me as a snow machine, I'm like, I gotta be head of the dog team, so I'm not going to make it through that with a snow machine either. So people will be pretty nervous.
And I've heard that from people, especially like third-year mushers, like Catherine Keith, for instance. We view her as a kind of an old hand now. She's been there for 3 years. But her rookie year, she went down the gorge, and that's the only way she's ever seen it in 2014. Mm-hmm. And then she went from Fairbanks, and now she has to go back to this. And if you've never seen that it can be okay, it's a pretty scary memory, I think. So.
And I think this year my gut feeling is it will be okay because of the amount of snow which is there.
Yeah, I think it.
And it's frozen and thawed and frozen and thawed. It's really hard. There's only so much which can happen with that. So my gut feeling is people might be pleasantly surprised of what's coming that way.
So
if the temperatures stay the way they're supposed to stay, what they're saying, which we know how weather forecasts go.
So what's your impression? What do you think the weather, as you read the reports, what do you think it's going to be?
It's going to probably stay calm and sunny as it has been. I don't think we can expect any major storm over there. There's no snow in the forecast. Daytime it will probably get above freezing, especially on the south slopes. Nighttime probably down to 0 Fahrenheit, which makes things hard and fast. You better adjust your running schedule to that you don't have to grind through the heat of the day.
So which teams do you think this trail will favor? Every trail is naturally plays to somebody's strengths or weaknesses. Who do you anticipate benefiting or being stronger on this trail?
Well, I know that I would have hated this trail as being a fast trail because I had a slow traveling dog team. So there's a bigger danger of overrunning them because they are not used to traveling fast. So it probably favors the faster teams at the beginning. People like John Baker who tend to travel a little slower have to take it more conservatively because their teams are not used to running 11 or 12 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And the ones you see in like the Nick Petites who run fairly fast in races leading up with younger dogs, with lighter dogs, it probably benefits their teams. This is not a trail for 75-pound dogs like I usually drive. And
we were talking with Dallas yesterday, and he said he liked to race in third gear. And when it gets into a fifth gear race and these faster teams, that's not his element. He would rather not be in that area. And so which teams can we anticipate moving quickly? You mentioned Nick Petit. He tends to run very fast and run very long runs, which of course is much easier to do when you have an easy trail, right?
Yeah, look at what he did at the Copper Basin.
Yeah.
Not that it played that well for him at the end of the Copper Basin, but he was way out front going all the way to Myers. Maybe he learned out of it, I don't know.
We're talking about the Copper Basin 300. It's a prep race that ran middle of January. And many of the mushers have run those mid-distance warm-up races. Neither Dallas nor Mitch does. They prefer to do their training outside of races because of the constraints with how fast you have to go and so forth. But who has looked stronger through those mid-distance races? You mentioned Nick Petit. Obviously, Hugh Neff just came off the Yukon Quest win. How do we anticipate that translating? Does it help him to have run the Quest first?
Can you ever expect anything with Hugh? Isn't he the wild card?
That's why we love Hugh.
I mean, he does so many things which sometimes you look at them, they shouldn't work, but they do.
But they do, yeah.
And sometimes they don't, which is also natural. You can't always win. So I think he's a real wild card. What the Quest has shown, his team can travel in heat.
Yep.
He ran 350 miles with 11 and a half hours of rest, twice through the heat of the day. So. And the dogs
it's a tough dog team.
And the dogs look good. Not only it's a tough dog team, we have to say they look good.
Yep.
So that he has that in the back of his mind.
Yep.
He didn't do that many other races before he was in No Copper Basin. So Hugh is definitely, I would say a very good wild card.
And Hugh's done well in Iditarod. He's gotten to Nome in 9 days, 3 hours. He's been third place, I believe. He's got quite a track record.
Fifth, I believe. Brent, second place in the Quest is not a shabby thing. Neither third place for Allen.
Yeah.
After that, there was a pretty big gap. Matt Hall is not here. So, Ali driving the main team of those two, she tends to take it more conservative. So I don't think we're going to see her up front early on in the race.
So, Sebastian, it's great you're on the trail and everything, so you can answer some questions. Because we pumped some of these mushers about something that I find interesting. Some of them carry dogs in a little caboose. In other words, the strategy is if you have 14 dogs on the tow line, you put 2 of them, you rest them, and then you can rotate them. But nobody tells us what they're doing because it's all kind of proprietary secret stuff. So tell us what Dallas Stevie, in your experience, what he does. How does he haul dogs? What does he do?
Well, I mean, they're trying to be secretive with me too, but I usually know when I leave a checkpoint, okay, Dad is left with 15 dogs, and then I pass him, and like, there's only 12 on the gang now. Well, I don't see him sticking out anywhere, so I drove by Dallas and I asked him, and I pointed out 3, and he said, yeah, so he had 3 dogs in the basket, or not in the basket, like in the caboose.
Yeah, so let's go over it. So
out of Galena last year.
So out of Galena, halfway through the race, he still had 15 dogs, so 12 of them were on the tow line, and he was given 3 of them a rest in the sled.
And the scary part was, he was actually catching up to Thomas Werner. Because I had passed both of them before, then I waited for them again. And so carrying 3 dogs, he was still traveling faster than a guy driving a full slate of dogs. Yeah. So he literally caught up to Thomas, stopped. I watched him get all the dogs out. And then he continued past him, and I think made like 40 minutes.
With 15 dogs now on the tow line.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive to see what they do and how they juggle it, when to get the dogs out, who to give a rest. it definitely worked for him, I would say.
Yeah. So who do you think? Anybody else doing it? Did you see anybody else rotating dogs in that way?
I didn't see anybody else rotate like that. You know, I sometimes saw him and I could count. You know, Ken Anderson, I passed and knew he hadn't the full slate on the team. Then Ken kind of moved away from that system. He didn't like it. How many will do it this year? Also, is what we just talked about. Knowing the trailer is not that great, how many dogs can you haul in it? Ketil Reitan, who's driving a few of my dogs, has asked me, Sebastian, are they used to riding in the caboose? I was like, no, never.
It takes some getting used to.
Yeah, and good luck with putting 65-pound Stevie in a caboose to begin with. So that all plays into it. Where have you trained? Have you had dogs in the caboose? And now we are not running on a river like last year.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Can you even get a caboose down the gorge? Yeah. Never mind with a dog in it. I don't think you can haul much for dogs on the way to Nikolai this year. I don't think you can haul much for dogs between Finger Lake and Nikolai at all.
And what we're saying is
that's a difference.
Yeah, there's certain stretches when the race starts in Fairbanks where you're running down the river and it's easy to carry a caboose with dogs in it, but the trail from Anchorage has so many more challenges, mountain passes and so forth, that it's just not safe to pull that caboose. And Dallas has talked about that quite a bit. There's only 2 or 3 stretches in the first half of the race where you can safely carry dogs, and that will definitely change the strategy. So.
Sebastian, unfortunately, we're running out of time, so we're going to have to catch
good.
you when you're on the trail.
Yeah.
And we look forward to some good trail reports.
Well, thanks for coming in there. And I'm Danny Seavey. This is Joe Runyon, Sebastian Schnuelle. We're live from the lakefront in Anchorage, and we'll be here all week.